We are on the record at 11:02.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's March 24th, 2022 virtual hearing. My name is Nicholas Blendy, and I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary of the board, and I will go through how today's going to work. As you can see on your screen, the outline of the packet that I'm presenting will describe how we will move forward today, as we always do. Good morning. Welcome to the WebEx platform for those of you who are here. Cisco WebEx is the online meeting platform that the City of Baltimore uses to conduct all of its virtual meetings. The Board of Estimates, the City Council, and the Planning Department have been using WebEx to hold virtual meetings since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Some basics. In order to use the WebEx platform, members of the general public should have access to a laptop, smartphone, computer, or similar device with a camera and microphone capabilities. If your electronic device does not have microphone capabilities, then you will need to use the phone number provided to dial in. To participate in the WebEx meeting, members of the public will have to download the WebEx app through their smartphones or click on the link below, which is on our website, to access the hearing online. You can see the link. The access code is 2335-323-0328, and the password is all caps BLLC, and the number is 1234, no spaces. The BLLC suggests that if you're going to use your smartphone, iPad, or similar device, that you download the application at least a day before today's hearing to ensure your access and functionality to the program. And if a member of the general public doesn't have access to a computer, smartphone, or similar device, they can call in the following number and enter in the following access code to listen only to the hearing. And that number is 408-418-9388, access code 2335-323-0328. All materials, evidence, and related items for today's docket are available on the board's website, and that includes the short docket, the long docket, and any attendant materials under a hyperlink listed with today's date, March 24th, 2022. All evidence to be considered by the board can be found in the long docket, and the board was accepting evidence from any party to the hearing up until 11 a.m. on Tuesday, the March 15th, 2022. And as always, all evidence should be submitted by email to our Assistant Executive Secretary, Ms. Stacy Russell, and that's you can see her email on the screen. Related items, evidence note, please, licensees, please make every effort to provide any documents you plan on submitting by 11 a.m. on Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, and attempts to introduce evidence at the hearing that were not submitted may lead to a postponement of your case. In addition to the posting of today's docket online, all licensees, witnesses, and or their representatives shall be and were served notice in accordance with the law. How today will work, I will read the preliminary instructions and call the case and explain the general ground rules. I will then call each case in the order listed on the short docket. The chair will then ask the licensee or their representative and any and all BLLC, police department, and Alcohol Tobacco Commission personnel to identify themselves and be sworn in by the court reporter. I will then call the case, and the board will conduct an evidentiary hearing, which will include the calling of witnesses, the hearing of testimony, and the reviewing of any documents that are entered into to be entered into the record to determine whether or not a violation occurred. At the conclusion of the hearing, which may include closing arguments by the licensee or their representative, the board will vote to determine whether or not a violation occurred. If the board finds a violation occurred, the board may then hear testimony or review any additional evidence before opposing a sentence. The board will then provide an opportunity to the general public to present testimony for mitigation. If an individual would like to testify, then at the bottom of your app, you will have to use the raise your hand feature within WebEx, and I will then recognize you. You'll identify yourself, be sworn in by our court reporter, and then you may testify. We do note that any individual who testifies is subject to questioning by the board and cross-examination by an attorney or the applicant or the licensee. Remember, if you have access only to a phone, you will not have the opportunity to testify. You must turn your video on. If a violation is found to have occurred, the board then moves into the sentencing determination, which can include a fine, a suspension, and or a revocation of a license. Some general ground rules for this hearing process. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking to minimize noise and feedback. Please identify yourself and state the spelling of your name before you speak. Please speak slowly and in a clear voice so the court reporter understands exactly what's being said and who is saying it. I know that this event is running live on Charm TV and that we have a court reporter present keeping the record. Individuals who use profanity or disrespectful or unruly may be expelled from today's virtual hearing. All attendees, applicants, licensees, and members of the public that wish to provide testimony during today's hearing must be sworn prior to giving such testimony. Some final helpful reminders for WebEx: please be prepared and read the materials ahead of time. Test the video conferencing platform as well. Location matters. Please find a quiet space with good light and strong internet connection so you can be seen and heard clearly. Please be present and not be multitasking. And as always, please be patient with yourself and others. Today's short docket is on the screen. I do note one additional person has called in, Mr. Chair. Let me check to see who this person is.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Somebody who called in on the phone. Can you identify yourself?
Yes.
Hi, yeah.
My name is Arjun.
And which item are you here for?
I am here for 1801 Ramsey Street. I have the notice that
Okay.
I was open when I'm not supposed to.
Okay. Therefore, Mr. Chair, we do have parties all here. I see that he is only a call-in user, but he is the licensee. So
Yeah, let's proceed with him, okay?
okay, then I will move to the first item on the docket. The first item before the board today. Excuse me. Licensee Waleed Farousi and Mike Jasiri, Walfar Incorporated, trading as J&J Bar and Liquors. Premises are located at 1801 Ramsey Street. Licensee holds a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and is charged with two violations of the same rule, Rule 4.05, prohibited hours, stemming from two separate incidents, one on July 10th, 2021, and one on February 8th, 2022. And then I believe, sir, could you identify yourself for the chair on the board?
Yes, my name is Arjinder Singh. I'm the person who was working at the time, and I'm the representative for this place.
Okay, Mr. Singh, we're going to need to swear you in. So could you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you spell your name for the record?
It's Arjinder, and the last name is Singh.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. Singh, good morning. Singh, good morning. Your
Good morning.
licensees here are charged with two violations of the Rule 4.05, one in July and one in February. Do you wish to admit or deny the violations?
I don't deny it, but the thing was, I did not know the hours were prohibited because I have a license that I can be open from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. So that's what I was doing. And then the first time they came in and they told me, no, you cannot do this. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I closed the store right away. And the second time, the store was being closed before 10 p.m. until when I received my renewed license, and it has the same hours that I can be open from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And I even called the liquor board to confirm that I can operate on these hours, and they say, yes, you can. You have the license. And I had the license until the second time they came in and they told me, you cannot be open. And they said, let me see your license. I gave them my license. They took a picture of it, and it says I can operate from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And so that's what I was doing. But they told me to. But yeah, the next day they brought in a new license with the prohibited hours, which is 10 to 10. And ever since I've been closing before 10 o'clock.
So let me ask, who's representing the board on this case, Mr. Bundy?
Inspector Jordan's unavailable due to a medical emergency, unfortunately. But Inspector Tudhope and Inspector Robinson are here. I believe Inspector Robinson wrote the report.
Let's swear Inspector Robinson in, please.
You raise your right hand. You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Inspector Walter Robinson, I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Inspector. Mr. Singh says that on both occasions, he had first a license that said that he could stay up until 2 in July, and then he was issued a new license that said the same thing that he was operating under in February. Is that accurate?
I'm not aware of what happened in July of 20. Speak to what happened on February 8th of 2022, though.
But did you see his license on that occasion?
Yes. It was not printed on his license that he was to close at 10 p.m.
Okay, so he didn't have any notice of it.
From after, actually, do you mind if I read from my notes?
Go ahead.
On February 8th, 2022, at approximately 10:23 p.m., I, Inspector Robinson, and Inspector Tudhope conducted compliance checks throughout the 40th District. We drove to J&J Bar and Liquors located on 1801 Ramsey Street and noticed that they were open. Upon this observation, we went inside and conducted an inspection of the establishment. After conducting the inspection, establishment manager Arjinder Singh was informed that the inspection was being conducted because he was not supposed to be open past 10 p.m. Per Senate Bill 775 that went into effect July 1st, 2021. After taking a thorough look at the liquor license, it was discovered that the 10 p.m. closure time was not listed on the license. Inspector Tudhope called and notified Chief Inspector Chris Amalis that the 10 p.m. closure time was not listed. Afterwards, Inspector Tudhope and I left the establishment. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that a violation was written on July 10, 2021 for operating outside the hours of operation.
Did you write the violation?
Yes, I wrote the one for February 8th.
Okay. So, and is he telling, is he accurate when he says that it was only after that he was issued a new license with the amended closing time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do the commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. Mr. Singh, based on the record, it appears that you or the establishment received a letter on June 29th, 2021, making clear that there was a restriction on your license. Are you familiar with receiving that letter?
No, I do not. Actually, we have a serious problem with the mail in that area, especially with that place. We miss mail all the time, so I did not receive any letter. But like I said, when they renewed my license, they gave me my regular license, and I even called the liquor board to make sure that I can operate my normal hours, and they say, yes, you can. You have the license.
Mr. Singh, I understand that these letters were hand delivered. Are you the individual that receives all the mail? Are you on the license itself? Because your name is not listed on the license, is it?
No, I'm not on the license, but I handle everything there.
So are you saying that you were not delivered by hand personally this letter of June 29, 2021?
2029, 2021. No, nobody came in and gave me anything.
There have been someone else that received this letter.
There is one other person who works there, but I'm not aware of any letter.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, Mr. Singh, there is some conflict in the evidence because if I believe you, and I don't have any reason not to believe you, that your license itself stated that you were allowed to stay open until 2 on both occasions.
Right.
The record shows that there was a hand-delivered letter, as Commissioner Greenfield says, dated June 29, directed to Welfare Inc., which is the owner of this license, that the
Right.
hours of operation had been changed by the General Assembly. I don't know why that didn't get to your attention.
I couldn't
So,
answer that.
I think technically you're in violation. Let me deal with this. Do we have anyone else who wishes to testify on this, Mr. Bundy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. No one has raised their hand, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Singh, on the basis of the evidence contained in the record and your testimony, I am going to find a violation of Rule 4.05, prohibited hours on both July 10, 2021 and February 8, 2022. You don't have a great record, but you seem pretty credible to me on this issue today. So I'm going to impose nominal fines of $100 each for those, for a total of $200, and give you 30 days to make that payment. And you should find out who's running the operation at Welfare Inc. and make sure they pass on important information to you if you're the manager of this facility. Commissioners?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, based on the testimony provided today, I agree with the chair's findings of violation of Rule 4.05, prohibited hours of July 10th, 2021, and also February 8th, 2022. $100 for each violation, which comes up to a $200 fine.
Based upon the evidence and the testimony, I too find a violation of Rule 4.05 on July 10, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $100 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.05 on February 8th, 2022, and concur with the imposition of a $100 fine.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Violation Report, Inspector Jordan. Board Exhibit 2, Violation Report, Inspector Robinson. Exhibit number 3, agency letter dated 6/29/21 in reference to House Bill 1288. And exhibit number 4, 40th District map.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to pay the fines imposed by the board today and any attendant administrative fees that come along with that. Shall we move forward, Mr. Chair?
Please.
And item number 2, if WebEx. There we go. The next matter on today or before today's board is licensee Chune Vishwakarma, Ganesh V. Kunwar, and Madan Waggle, Sri Balaji Incorporated, trading as Portside Tavern and Lounge. Premises are located at 2821 to 23 O'Donnell Street. Licensees hold a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and are charged with violating one of the board's rules, violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, dating from an incident on March 2nd, 2022. Mr. Kadensky is counsel for the case, and Inspectors Robinson, Tudhope, and Chrysomalis, I believe, all have evidence that they may wish to present to the
All
board.
right. Good morning, Mr. Kadensky. You want to identify yourself for the record,
Good
please?
morning. For the record, I'm Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street.
And will this be an admission or denial, Mr. Kadensky?
Let me hear what the inspectors have to say. I just have a couple of questions, please.
That's fine. Who's going to start the testimony?
It'll be Inspector Robinson.
All right. Well, he's already under oath, so Inspector Robinson, can you tell us what happened on March 2 at this establishment?
Yes. I would like to take a moment and notify the board that the violation report in the summons and the violation report, there's a revised version of the report. I made an error in who was with me on that 311 call.
Well, I don't know if anyone's been served with that amendment, but tell us, you were there, so tell us what happened.
Yes. So On March 2nd, 2022, at approximately 11:15 p.m., I, Inspector Robinson, responded to 311 complaint number 22-001-70192 regarding loud noise coming from the above-mentioned establishment. Upon arrival, I walked 1 block over to the nearest residence. Music could be heard from the establishment. Loud voices also could be heard. I entered the establishment and spoke to Rodrigo Bermudez, who identified himself as the manager on duty. Mr. Bermudez was instructed to lower the volume. Mr. Bermudez complied and stated that the music was coming from the upper level of the establishment. I went with Mr. Bermudez to ensure that he advised the bar staff to keep the music at an acceptable level. Once upstairs, several loud patrons could be heard. Mr. Bermudez instructed the bar staff to maintain an acceptable noise level and to lower the speaking volume, the speaker that they had playing. Afterwards, I departed the establishment and Mr. Bermudez that a violation would be issued for loud noise.
Okay, Mr. Cadenza, you have questions for the inspector?
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this question. You indicated to him that you would issue a violation for loud noise. Where is that violation, loud noise, in the rules? Do you know?
Offhand, I do not.
All right, and number two, when you say loud noise, what do you use as do you have a decibel reader to listen to the sounds to make sure it's not above the ambient noises in the neighborhood?
I do not have a decibel reader. Generally, what I do is if I can hear the music over the music in my own car, it's too loud.
That's your rule.
Yes. Also, because the bar sits on the corner and that there's a residence nearby, I usually walk to that residence. If I can hear the music clearly from the residence, then I determine it to be too loud.
Yeah, but I mean, you said you got a complaint, a 311 complaint. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know where it came from? Did it come from that area or not?
I'm not sure. The complaint was anonymous.
But that area on O'Donnell Street is strictly a commercial area. There's, half shell there. There's Nacho Mama's. There's probably 15, 20 places, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you went in and you talked with the gentleman, was the music still on when you went in?
Yes.
What were they playing? I mean, I'm not asking you, trying to be smart. I mean, was it regular, is it recorded music or what was it?
I noticed that they had a DJ in the back.
Mhm.
And they were playing Latin American music.
Okay,
So,
and when you were able to talk to him while the music was playing, correct?
yes.
And then, but he complied and he turned it down.
Yes.
And then you went upstairs. You said they were loud people.
Correct.
Well, their people were shouting at each other, or were they singing, or what were they doing?
It sounded like they were talking really loud.
They were talking loud, and you could hear that outside. People talking.
Yes.
Loud? What were they saying?
I'm not sure what they were saying.
Okay.
It just sounded like a lot of people having fun talking loudly.
Nothing wrong with having fun. I mean, we need more of that in today's society. And did you tell them, or did he tell them not to talk so loud, or?
Yes. So when I came in, Mr. Bermudez immediately said that the music and the loud noise was coming from the upper level.
Yeah. But otherwise, they were compliant with you when you were there. Is that correct?
Yes. They lowered the noise as soon as I came in. They told the upstairs level to lower their noise and lower the volume as well.
And that was all done to your satisfaction, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get any other complaints from any other places in that area?
No.
I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Kineski, who is with you today?
This is one of the managers here, Mr. Mohian Thapa. The other manager is no longer with the establishment.
Can we swear in your witness, please?
He was not there, but I'll,
Yeah, we just have some general questions.
go ahead. Raise your,
Can you raise your right hand, sir?
that's up.
Yes, thank you. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, just the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
That's up.
You may need to move closer.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Can you spell your name for the record?
Mohan, Mohan. Last name is Thapa.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. Konecki, our chief inspector just had a few questions for him, okay?
About this incident?
No,
Does he also have to be
just
sworn,
generally about
Mr.
the
Chair?
operation of the location. Yeah, it's not going to go to the any sanction imposed here.
Okay.
Okay.
Does the chief inspector need to be sworn, Mr. Chair?
Well, if Mr. Konecki is going to question him, yeah, we better.
Okay.
And I'm not seeing who the chief inspector
Oh,
is.
John Christinalis.
Okay, thank you. You have your right hand raised. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you spell your name for the record?
Sure. CHRISSOMA, 2 L's, IS.
Thank you.
Chief, did you have some questions for the manager?
Yeah, just real briefly, Your Honor. We've been there numerous times, and I just need to get a little bit of an explanation on the operating procedure of the establishment. Correct me if I'm wrong, you have one liquor license, you're running 2 concepts, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And are you the manager of the restaurant or are you the manager of the port side?
I'm the manager of the whole, both places.
Okay. How often are you at port side?
I am there every day. Usually I go there 11 o'clock in the morning. I work at the restaurant next door and until maybe 10:30 at night, I stay. Sometimes I stay until 2 in the morning, depending on the days. Some days I stay until 2 in the morning. Someday I stay until like 7 or 8 because I come in the morning for the restaurant part.
So who operates the port the business next door?
Restaurant?
No, not the restaurant. I know you're in operational control of because I've seen you there. I have never, however, seen you next door.
Okay.
And a couple different people have introduced themselves to me as the new owners.
No,
Twice in the last 8 months.
Wait,
So
when I
I'm just
talk-
trying to figure out if you have a manager with a manager agreement, who are these individuals and what are their responsibility for the second business?
So they are not the owner, they are just the manager. I hire them to run the bar under me. And they have no lease or no nothing because it's just everything under our name. The lease is in our name. They're just the managers. They're not owner. I don't know why people are telling that they are the owners, but none of them are there anymore. So all of them, it's gone now.
Even the individual that was there just 2-3 weeks ago?
Yes, it was a guy named Carlos. He's gone. There was a guy named John. He's gone.
Okay. So
Now
when you leave these managers responsible at night, I'm just asking if you could please just go over the rules and regulations
I have.
about noise, about what time they're supposed to close, about minors, about everything. If you
Yes,
could,
sir.
if you're still in control of the business and you leave somebody there on your behalf, they have to be aware of all the rules and regulations.
Yes, sir. I have done that and I will continue doing that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you for the time.
Mr. Konecki, do you have any follow-up?
No follow-up, and I would note that there's an application in there pending for the change that probably maybe I'll talk with Ms. Branch, but the Sri Balaji is the stated same as they're reducing the amount of people on the license down to I think only one person, but that's not for the board today.
Okay. Did you have anything further on the violation, Mr. Konecki?
It looks like, I don't know, I'm sure you, Your Honor, remember Judge Jerome Robinson And I always liked it when he would say, this appears to be like a de minimis case for us who are the Latin scholars. Certainly they weren't compliant, loud, whether anybody was disturbed under general welfare. There's no violation called loud music. It's general welfare. I don't know if it rises to that. They haven't been before the board before, but I'll leave it up to the board's discretion on this. I don't want to, beat the thing to death.
Okay. The commissioners have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, to the staff, the liquor board, for clarification, I know the health department has hand device for sound. Is the liquor board required to have that? Was it needed?
I can answer that one, Commissioner. So the liquor board does not enforce the health ordinance that covers loud music, and what a scientific ruling is, that is in the health article, and only the Baltimore City Health Department has the authority to enforce that. Rule 3.12, which is what the charge is, requires licensees to operate their establishment in such a manner to avoid disturbing the peace, safety, health, quiet, and to promote the general welfare of the community. There has been no case that has ever struck this down, to my knowledge, that has ever said that anything other than an inspector may use their firsthand experience to make a determination, and that has been typical of loud noise charges. But Mr. Kadensky is correct that loud noise is not defined. It is charged under general welfare as a violation of disturbing the peace, safety, health, quiet of the community. But we do not use decibel readers.
Thank you, Mr. Blendy.
But if I may chime in, the board did have decibel readers at one time, and they did use them. The old Bohager situation, they had them where they would take readings. And I think unfortunately, since Radio Shack went out of business, nobody's got any new decibel readings, and there is a decibel reading that goes above ambient noise. In general, you would have people from the community that would be complaining. You don't have that here. So I don't know, it rises to the general welfare, but I'll just let it go at that.
Commissioner Greenfeld?
No questions.
Do we have anyone else who wishes to testify on this case, Mr. Bundy?
Does any member of the public wish to testify on this matter? If so, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. No one has raised their hand, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kadensky, I just want to make this comment. I think we all know, because we've been in bars with televisions and music, that the patrons tend to speak over it, and it can get loud at times. So I think the inspectors are entitled to use their common sense about these things in gauging whether we have a violation. I do think there's a technical violation here. On the basis of the materials contained in the charging documents and the testimony received in your proffer, I'd find a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, on March 2, 2022. These licensees do not have any history of violations, and I agree that this is not the worst violation, and they were compliant when they were instructed to do so. So I'd impose a $150 fine and give them 30 days to pay. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, based on the testimony and material provided today, I also agree with the chair's findings of violation of Rule 312, General Welfare, on March 2nd, 2022, with a fine of $150.
Based upon the charging document, the proffer and testimony, I too find a violation of Rule 3.12 on March 2nd, 2022, and concur with the imposition of a $150 fine.
Ms. Russell?
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, violation report, Inspector Tudhope. Board Exhibit 2, service request summary report.
Thank you, Mr. Kadensky, and your client.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensees will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to pay the fine imposed by the board today and any attendant administrative fees that go along with that. May we move forward, Mr. Chair?
Yes, let's do it.
And item number 3 on today's docket, licensee is Thomas Young Kim, Good Times LLC, trading as Good Times Bar, Liquor and Bar Lounge. Premises are located at 1600 West Baltimore Street. Licensee holds a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and is charged with 3 violations of the board's rules stemming from 3 separate incidents. The first violation is a violation of Rule 4.18, alterations stemming from an incident on November 5th, 2021. The second violation is a violation of Rule 4.05, prohibited hours, stemming from an incident on February 13th, 2022. The third violation is a violation of Rule 3.08, sanitation and safety, stemming from an incident on February 14th, 2022. The variety of inspectors who will be available to testify are Inspector Tudhope, Chief Inspector Chris Amalis, and Agents Chase and Clark. Probably Chase looks like she wrote the report, and Mr. Kadensky is counsel.
For,
Go ahead, please.
for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street, representing, it's a misnomer here because Mr. Thomas Kim, although he is still the registered licensee, Mr. Nelson had bought this place a year ago and has been trying to get this place transferred for a year. So he's been in operational control of the business from probably at least a year ago, and been having a tough time. And he'll explain to you that the city trying to get all his permits. He's got everything together. In fact, I wrote a letter to the board the other day. He's ready to finish the transfer. He'll explain to you the situations as they occur, but Mr. Kim is no longer involved with this location.
Are there going to be denials then, Mr.?
I will do denials and then I'll just ask a few questions. I'll try to make it simple as possible,
All right,
please.
well, let me first swear in Inspector Tudhope, and we already have Inspector Chris Amalis under oath, and Clark, okay?
It's the inspectors who are being sworn in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Inspector
I do.
Tudhope. I do.
Thank you. And we'll be swearing the witness in later, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said Clark, I meant Inspector Chase.
And Clark too.
So Inspector Tudhope, can you tell us what happened on these occasions?
Yes, sir. On November 5th, 2021, at approximately 10:55, I, Inspector Tudhope, along with Inspector Jordan and members of the Social Club Task Force that includes BPD Vice and Baltimore Housing, conducted an investigation at 1600 West Baltimore at the establishment known as Good Times Liquor and Bar for the reasons of renovations completed without board approval. Upon arrival at the establishment, I, Inspector Tudhope, made contact with Mr. Richard Nelson, who stated he was the owner of the establishment. I, Inspector Tudhope, entered the establishment and observed the inside area had been completely renovated and a new bar area had been built. I, Inspector Tudhope, asked Mr. Nelson to see all permits. Mr. Nelson could only provide expired liquor license and alcohol awareness certificate to the inspector. Mr. Nelson stated that his lawyer was in possession of all permits at that time. All permits were up to date and that he had gotten approval for the renovations from BLLC. I, Inspector Tudhope, told Mr. Nelson that I would follow up on information given. Task force left establishment without further incidents. Upon further review in the office of the establishment's file, it was established that Mr. Nelson did not seek approval for renovations, and I, Inspector Tudhope, issued an establishment a violation for renovations without liquor board approval.
Okay, Mr. Kadensky, you have questions for the inspector?
Sure. Inspector, you're familiar with the place looked like before you were in there November 5th, correct?
Correct.
And what was changed when you went in there on November 5th from when was prior to that date?
Well, I can only speak to the time I was private there, which was a couple of years back. And as you walk in, the packaged goods section had been taken out. Then you enter through another door, and the old bar had a long bar running along the wall. The new the renovations, there was a smaller bar to the left, and they had knocked through the wall to the next door established building. And now there was couches and fireplaces to the left, a pool table in front, and the bathrooms at the back had all been renovated. and completely different inside.
So what happened is, and from you're telling me, there was a packaged goods area that was no longer there, and then the bar was made smaller. Is that correct?
The bar was moved. Yeah, it was now closer to the door and
Mhm.
made smaller and wider.
All right. And then you say that next door, what's next door? Isn't the property 1600 and 1602 West Baltimore Street? And that's the address?
When you entered before, it was only in the 1600. He had knocked down walls to 1602. The
He
bar
actually
was
knocked-
against the wall.
Doesn't the license cover 1600 and 1602?
I believe the license covers 1600.
And it does not cover 1602, although it was consolidated. Do you know that or you don't?
I can tell you to the best of my knowledge, it was 1600.
Well,
You don't know it was ever 1600 and 1602.
I do not have the license in front of me,
Okay.
sir.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Chair, not to jump in, but may I speak to the logic here, if that's okay?
You mean to the address?
Yeah, to the to where I think Mr. Kadensky is making his point about 1602. Just a factual history of what
Go
the
ahead.
board has heard before. So Mr. Kadensky is correct that I think where he's going, the application to transfer ownership as submitted to the board did cover and was approved for a premises that would be 1600 to 02. In exhibit number 2, the renderings do not show the absence of an interior wall in between the two properties, but most importantly, the transfer hasn't been completed yet. So the premises being covered that the board approved, because the license hasn't transferred, it goes back to the old, legally, I believe it goes back to the old original license that Mr. Kim is on, who is not here. And I think part of the problem is just this fact that the approvals and that the transfer's lack of completion has led to this lag and discrepancy between what his client has applied for and was approved for by the board and what the legal documents are right now. And this
Well-
was obviously November.
Well, I'm somewhat confused, Mr. Konecki. So I understand that we have approved the transfer of this license to Mr. Nelson, but he doesn't have it yet. Is he operating the bar without a license?
And he has been operating it, and the board was, not the board, but the office was aware they was operating it with it. He picked the license up. If you look at your records, in 2006, there was a public hearing to expand the license to include 1602 West Baltimore Street, which was approved with live entertainment. And after that, there was a consolidation. So 1602 and 1604 then became 1600 and 1602 became known as 1600. Those records are down at the zoning, and for some reason, I don't know why they're not picking this up. And apparently, Mr. Nelson had to go down there and spend a lot of time, and then they confirmed that 1600 and 1602 was consolidated, known as 1600.
So the reason that he doesn't have the license transferred to him officially yet is because of zoning?
He has been going through, and he'll tell you, trying to get all the permits to be able to transfer it. It's ready to transfer, and that was all submitted by the end of last week, but the license has not been transferred because of this violation hearing.
Oh, okay. Well, let's, I don't know that I have questions for him, but let's swear him in just in case, okay?
Sir, can you raise your right hand?
Somebody's breaking up.
Can you raise your right hand?
You there?
The witness who is going to be speaking needs to raise his right hand.
No, but I didn't hear anything. Was somebody talking? Because I don't think we went out for a while.
Mr. Konecki, we wanted to have Mr. Nelson raise his right hand.
Sure.
Thank you. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And again, you might need to move closer.
Can you speak up, please, sir?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Can you just spell your name for the record?
RICHERDNELSON.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Nelson, you've been told that this hearing today on the violations is what's holding up the transfer of these permits?
Yes, sir. I've called the liquor board several times. They say they have all the documents, but it's pending this hearing before they make the transfer. My concern was that the extension that we're asked for prior to this is that it expires on the 28th, so that only now gives them 2 days, 2 actual working days after hearing to complete the transfer.
Okay. All right, thank you. So who's going to testify as to the prohibited hours violation?
Chief Chrisomalis.
Okay. Chief, can we have you tell us what happened on February 13th?
Yes, sir. On February 13th, at approximately 2:15 a.m., I received a call from BPD from Sergeant Edelman from the Western District. Sergeant said he observed 1600 West Baltimore Street was still open past 2 o'clock. I arrived at the location at 2:30 to find the sergeant and his patrolman waiting for me outside. We entered the location. The doors were unlocked. There was a barmaid actively serving alcohol. There was approximately 15 customers sitting around the bar and another approximately 5 customers on the 1602 side, which is not licensed, with a DJ actively playing music. I met Mr. Richard Leonard, who was identified by a Maryland driver's license. He identified himself as the owner of the establishment. I explained to him that he was in violation of the liquor license and that he cannot operate after 2 a.m. He stated that he was giving alcohol away and not charging. I explained to him that I did not think that that was the case. However, regardless, even if he was not charging, he is still violation for serving after 2 a.m. I asked to see the current liquor license, which he was not able to provide me. Being familiar with the location, I was aware that there was a transfer pending and that the establishment had an active liquor license. I explained to Mr. Leonard that I was giving him a warning for not having the license displayed and not being able to provide it to me, and that I was issuing a violation for operating after hours. Mr. Leonard agreed to close and emptied the location of customers without any other incidents.
Okay. Mr. Cadency, you have questions for the chief?
Just, I asked you that when you talked to them, they were compliant and did what you wanted them to do. Is that correct?
Absolutely. He was very compliant.
Okay, and I'll, at this point, I'm having nothing from the chief inspector. I'll have Mr. Nelson address the board if you want. Explain, I'm sorry.
I just have a question. Who is Mr. Leonard? I thought Mr. Nelson owned it.
Leonard is my middle name.
Oh, okay.
So it's Richard Leonard Nelson.
Okay.
Same, or say the second verse, same as the first.
Okay.
No, I apologize about that, Mr. Nelson. I thought that was your last name.
No, not a problem. It's actually the middle name.
Do you want to tell the board about that particular occasion and what you, well, you tell the board.
Okay. So it's my apologies. On that occasion, the bar had closed from the public early on that day. I had some friends come over and we were having some drinks. The front door, the open signs was off and the door was closed. I don't know if someone left out and left the door open, but the establishment was closed to the public. It was my mistake because it draws to my attention that even myself cannot have a drink or friends, and which was explained to the officers since I live upstairs because the previous owner had an apartment upstairs. When I bought the establishment, I refurbished the upstairs and I live upstairs now. So that's my residence. Says if you would want to have a drink with your friends, you would have to take them upstairs. I agreed. And I said, everybody got to go.
Okay. And Chief, is that the conversation that you had with him?
Correct. I mean, he stated that it was all friends and family. It was really late in the morning, Your Honor, really early in the morning to sit there and interview customers. To me, my perception of the whole incident was that he was open and operating. Yeah. Okay. DJ was still playing, barmaid was still there serving. They were open for business.
Yeah. I'm happy to read the rule if the chair wishes.
You may, go ahead.
Sure. Rule 405, prohibited hours. A, A licensee may not permit a person, including an employee, patron, and family member of an employee or agent of the licensee, to consume alcoholic beverages on the licensed premises during alcohol hours when alcoholic beverage sales are prohibited by law. Alcoholic beverages may not be served. Oh, this is B. I'm sorry. Alcoholic beverages may not be served, dispensed, furnished, or given away in any part of the premises during hours when alcoholic beverage sales are prohibited by law.
Thank you. Anything further?
Council was so stipulating. That's what it says.
Okay. Let's go to the third violation. Who's going to testify on that? Is that
Agents Chase and Clark wrote the report. I believe Agent Chase wrote the report.
okay. Agent Chase, can you tell us what happened?
Sure. At approximately 2:26 p.m. on Monday, February the 14th, 2022, Agent Chase and Agent Clark arrived at Good Times Liquor and Bar Lounge, also known as Richie's, located at 1600 West Baltimore Street. When we arrived, we observed several overflowing trash cans with boxes, plastic bags, and a white pickup truck parked on the rear of the establishment. The truck was filled to capacity with trash bags. The trash bags from the truck were identical to the trash bags that were on the side of the building. The establishment was closed at the time of when we arrived, so we were unable to do an inspection, but documentation of the trash was taken. However, a violation was issued for overflowing trash and sanitation.
Mr. Kadansky?
Yeah, Inspector, when was the last time you were there before February 14th? That's Valentine's Day, wasn't it?
It is.
Okay. Were you there the day before?
I was not there the day before, but
All right, well, then the question
Chief
is
was,
that you,
Chief was, and he told me he's seen the
I'm just asking you about your testimony, if you can. And you were there on the 14th in the afternoon, is that correct?
Yes, and I actually went back the following day and I seen the truck again.
Saw the truck there again?
Yes, it was there on the 15th as well.
Did you ever talk with anybody from the establishment at all?
I wasn't able to. They weren't open.
All right, but I mean, when you went back the next day, did you talk to anybody?
No, they weren't open.
All right, so you've never talked to anybody from the establishment?
Not about the trash.
Okay, and then do you know whether or not the trash was all from that establishment, their apartments there, is that correct?
Yes, but I don't know if the apartments are operational. But I know the previous owner, when he owned it, he actually had trash cans from a company that I know he said he had problems with the tenants dumping their trash into his, but these look like residential trash cans.
Okay. All right, I have nothing further.
Okay. Do commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Mr. Nelson, you want to reply to that situation regarding the trash?
Yes, please, forward. Since I've moved in that neighborhood, I don't know if anybody realized this around that area there. That alleyway in the back has been filled with trash. I took my time and some of my guys to go out there and get a dumpster, which I got a $1,600 fine for, to put a dumpster there to clean the alley and clean everything out in the back there. What I've done, I've then purchased a truck and advised the people in the neighborhood, because what they would do is take their trash, and it was easy for them when the trash can is filled to walk out in the back there and just drop the trash in the alley. So I try to put a camera there and advise them. They're free to use that truck. That's why the truck is filled like that. And I always get one of my guys to take it to the dump. So the trash that is on that truck is not only coming from my establishment, but it helps to keep the neighborhood clean. I prefer to put it on my truck than to continue to dump it in the alley.
Okay. Any follow-up questions, commissioners?
No questions.
No questions.
Do we have public comment on this case, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. No one has raised their hand, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Blendy, I think I require some clarification. So as of the dates charged here, Mr. Kim is the licensee, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So he's responsible for any of these violations, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And he's the one with the terrible record before the board.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So Mr. Nelson, who's been attempting to take this over, doesn't have any responsibility for any of this, is that right?
Not until, no, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I guess Mr. Kim's nowhere around.
The premises were served. That would probably be a question for council or.
No, he's not around, and he hadn't been around for a year that Mr. Nelson's been trying to get this place in shape. And, you know,
But,
okay.
so,
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I will state that Mr. Kadensky is correct in that he submitted a letter to the board, I believe on Tuesday, informing that all of the things that had been outstanding for at least 260 days or so, as required to complete the transfer, did appear to be in order. And now it is my understanding that the final impediment is these charges, which 12-1705.1 allows to toll the time against a licensee to complete the transfer.
all right. Well, on the basis then the materials contained in the charging documents, all the testimony received and the proffers from counsel, I find a violation of Rule 4.18 alterations on November 5, 2021, a violation of Rule 4.05 prohibited hours on February 13, 2022, and a violation of Rule 3.08 sanitation and safety on February 14, 2022. And I would suspend this license pending its transfer so that he's not in operation until all the paperwork has been completed and Mr. Nelson has it. I would admonish Mr. Nelson that while it sounds like you are attempting to do something positive with respect to the trash, you should work something out with our people so they understand what you're doing and you don't get violated again. And also be very cautious about this serving family and friends after hours. Commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if you could give me clarity, what your recommendation is that your findings to suspend the license. Can you clarify that for me? Because
I'm suspending this license until it's been actually transferred to Mr. Nelson so that he can take over operation.
So it would be, Mr. Chair, for my own clarity and for the court reporter, immediate suspension of the license, and then it would be, once the transfer is complete, it would be allowed to be open and operating?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, he was advised that's ready. So if he came down today or got it today, then that would satisfy that. Just want to make sure.
I believe so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, based on testimony material provided today, I agree with the chair's findings of violation of Rule 418, violation of Rule 405, and violation of Rule 308 to suspend the license till the license are official, if I'm saying this correctly.
Till it's transferred to the applicant?
Yes.
Based upon the charging document, the testimony and proffer, I find a violation of Rule 4.18 on November 5th, 2021. I find a violation of Rule 4.05 on February 13, 2022, and I find a violation of Rule 3.08 on February 14, 2022, and would concur with suspension until it is transferred to the applicant.
Okay, Ms. Russell?
I'd like to call the exhibits to the record. Board Exhibit 1, violation report, Inspector Tudhope. 2, floor plan. 3, Baltimore City Police Department report, LeBron. 4, violation report, Chief Inspector Krista Malice. 5, violation report, Agent Chase.
Okay, Mr. Kadensky, I just want to please be very clear with your client that while technically these were Mr. Kim's violations, he's the one who caused them. So he needs to be very careful about all of them because going forward, we will not be so lenient. But thank you.
I understand that, and he's ready to bring the license down to be transferred, and that could be done today if somebody could get a hold of it.
So that concludes this matter before the board. Licensee and counsel will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with the results of today's proceedings and officially informing them of the suspension as the board ruled. And Mr. Kadensky, I'm sure staff here will coordinate with you and your client to see what is outstanding and get it resolved.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Then, Mr. Chair, shall we move forward? And
you can, but I'm not going to be participating in the last case, so I'm going to be leaving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then the final item on today's docket, and the chair has recused himself, is licensees George L. Divil III, William G. Matriciani, and Donna M. Matriciani, Waydog LLC, trading as Playbook. Premises are located at 6700 German Hill Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21, excuse me. I somehow lost my page. 21224, I believe. Anyway, licensee holds a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license and is charged with one violation of the board's rules, a violation of Rule 4.08, Relations with Wholesalers, stemming from an incident on January 19th, 2022. I believe a commissioner, who did we say is chairing this one? Greenfield, did you say you were chairing? Commissioner
Yes, I think
Greenfield
so.
will chair the hearing, and Mr. Previs is counsel, is my understanding, and is on Mr. Kadensky's feed. And I believe he had indicated he may wish to request a postponement. Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Previs. So you are requesting a postponement?
Yes, Peter Previs on behalf of the licensees. I most respectfully request a postponement for a few reasons. The most important of which is the licensees. There's 3 licensees and there's a 4th owner of the business who is the person that is the everyday person that is operating. He has been out of town and recently got back. And I happened to be speaking with one of the other licensees yesterday and advised them that they were on the docket. They had no idea. I called the operating owner and didn't get a hold of him until this morning, and he was totally unaware that there had been a hearing scheduled. Whether that was justified or not justified, in any event, the licensees did not know about today. The second thing is I am under the weather. I've been sick for the last 2 days. I think I'm running a fever right now. Our phone lines in our office have been melted by the steam on the construction on St. Paul and Saratoga. So my phone system is totally out. But most importantly, I could probably do this hearing by the seat of my pants under any other circumstances. But I would like the opportunity to challenge the rule in effect in this case as being potentially economic protectionism. And under the recent Supreme Court case of Tennessee Wine and Spirit Retailers Association versus Thomas, there may be legal authority to challenge this alleged violation for purchasing from another retailer. And I would like time to work that up if I do intend to pursue that argument.
Okay, so Ms. Russell, can you confirm that there was a service?
Yes, there was service.
Okay, so Mr. Previs, I'm going to grant the postponement, but how do we ensure that you and your clients in particular get notice? I'd like to set this case back in, if possible, for April 7th.
Yeah, I don't have my calendar with me, but since I know about it, they will know about it.
Okay, well, we will make sure that you and your clients get notice for the subsequent hearing on April 7th, and look forward to your argument on the case you cited. And we will set this back in for April 7th.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner?
May I check, commissioners? We do have the ATC agent here, and I don't know what her
Oh, yes,
availability is.
sure, yes. Let's confirm that as well.
I'm actually, it's Agent Mangold. I'm actually in training the 6th through the 8th of April.
Okay, so perhaps then, Mr. Blendy, how are we in session on the 14th?
Yeah, it was not intended to be a violation, but it can have a violation hearing. We will be on the 14th.
Okay, so why don't we set that in for the 14th, if that works for you, Mr. Previs and Ms. Mangold, and then we can proceed from there. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Greenfield, I will call Mr. Blendy as soon as we get off the Zoom, and I'll run over to my office and make sure that my calendar is clear.
Yeah, and if we have to coordinate it from there, we can do that. If something comes up on the 14th that it doesn't work, then but I'd like to get this case heard and set in. So I appreciate everybody working together on this.
Thank you.
Then with the board's granting of the request for postponement, staff will follow up with Agent Mangold from the ATC and with Mr. Previous counsel for the licensees to set the hearing for April 14th or a different date certain. Is that what the chair's determination is?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I agree with the acting chair's motion.
Okay. Then with that, which was the final matter, Mr. Acting Chair, Mr. Chair, you're always the chair if you're the chair. As the former chair of the Land Use Committee knows, do you have anything additional or may I read the adjournment?
You can read the adjournment, and I hope, Mr. Previous, your day gets better, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
The board will be in recess until Thursday, April 7th, 2022. The board shall post on its website and provide notice to applicants and or attorneys and conduct a virtual hearing on this date. Please call our office at 410-396-4377 between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. with any questions or concerns you have on regarding this matter or any other. That is all we have for the board today.
Thank you all.
Off the record there, Mr. Reporter, sir.
Okay, we are off the record at 12:08. And I did have one question. Can I get the spelling on Mr. Previs?
Sure, he's Peter, Peter.
Oh,
And then last name Previs, Prevas.
okay, great. I believe that's the only question I had as far as names. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.